Welcome to Only a Podcast. Two blokes upside down and many miles from home talk about popular culture and unpopular culture too. Music, books, films, the news, what we had for dinner last night, anything goes. Apart from politics, probably. Episode 3, The 27 Club and Beyond. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3, The 27 Club and Beyond is what we're going to call it. You find out why a bit later. Say hello, Captain.
Hello, Captain. You all fine now? How are we doing?
Hope we're all good.
Yeah.
Yep, you got a bit of Maori in there.
I did get a bit of that in. We could go into that in future, as we've said.
Yeah, we could.
We could do
I
that.
know all of the words. Well, 4 of them.
Cool.
So
that's all good.
That's all right. Yeah, well, it's all happened really. We're only on episode 3, and having been whelmed in episode 2, I think we're getting towards fairly whelmed now. Not overwhelmed still, of course. But yeah, we've had good uptake of listeners, and the stats are very good for us. So that's really good. So we appreciate that. It's good to know that people are listening all around the world. There's someone in Frankfurt. If you're listening now, we'd love to know who you are, because I don't know anyone in Frankfurt. Or I don't think I do. No. So
I did go there once, but I can't remember it.
Okay.
Maybe there is someone I know. Yeah.
Maybe there is. Maybe it's a child. Maybe you have a child over there.
No, it's not that.
No. Okay. No. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So
I guess
for that.
we should talk about a few followers that we've got now, since we just mentioned how successful it's all been. And a good mate of mine, Rob Morgan, who is Doherty74 on the Twitter, is following us now. I've written articles with Rob before as we threw word files across the planet, and we ended up with writing top 10 of Teenage Fan Club, which was very entertaining when we finished that. And as part of a culture catch-up as well, Rob is writing an Ian McDonald-style track-by-track blog. Ian McDonald is the guy who wrote a track-by-track about the Beatles called Revolution in the Head. And Rob's blog...
I'm currently reading it for the second time. Yeah.
There you go. I've read it a lot. And Rob's blog is called Exploding Teardrops, and he's writing about the Teardrop Explodes from the first clip to the final plop. And I'm looking forward to it. He's about 3 tracks in at the moment, and it's a good level of detail. Gives me a chance to play lots of Teardrop Explode songs. And Rob has already been followed by Dave Balfe, ex of the Teardrops, which is very exciting. Let's wait and see if Dave has any comments.
Yeah. So do you know how many tracks he needs to cover? I'm not sure how big their career was, Teardrop Explodes.
I don't know how far he's going to go.
Around a few years, eh?
Yeah, as Julian went solo eventually. We shall see. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, good stuff. I noticed his Twitter handle, Doherty74, which obviously brings me on to bands or musicians that were brilliant that you've never heard of. So obviously thinking of Vinnie Riley there. So that's something for another episode maybe. If you know who Vinnie Riley is, well done. If you don't, go and listen. He's rather a good guitarist. That's good. I want to give a little shout out to I posted kind of publicised this podcast to a few of the podcasts and fan pages and that of podcasts that I like, that I regularly listen to. One of which is Top Flight Time Machine, and their fans are called the Iron Filing Society. So I posted on their page on Facebook, and they very kindly gave me some good feedback, and I'm sure some of them have listened, and hopefully they're listening now. So thanks for that, guys. Same goes for Athletico Mints, another podcast I love. That's Andy Dawson and Bob Mortimer. Surreal, crazy stuff. The Athletico Mints fans, the Club Parsnips as they're known, they were also very welcoming. I belong to a Facebook group called Brits in New Zealand, and I was very cheekily posted this on that group just because there's a bit of British nostalgia, or there is going to be, undoubtedly, and there already has been a bit. So they were very kind as well. And also Soda Jerker, which is one of my favourite podcasts, all about songwriting. Go check out Soda Jerker; it's incredible. And they kindly retweeted. So it's good. It's good that people are listening to us. We don't want to over spam ourselves or over spam people with, PR.
No.
We're not doing this for money or anything. We just like to get the word out there. So thanks again. Culture Catch Up, a regular section of the show.
Yeah.
Culture Catch Up. I just decided it's a regular section.
It is.
Keith, do you want to get to what's caught your eye this week in the cultural world?
I've been catching up with quite a few things, but two I shall mention. One is on Disney Plus, and it's the Reservation Dogs series, co-produced by Taika Waititi of this parish, and it's a Native American observational comedy / drama series about 4 young teenage Native Americans and their hopes and dreams and aspirations. And it's what I might call a slow burner, and I'm obviously missing a lot of Native American references, but that doesn't mean to say that there isn't some fine acting going on, and some quite crazy and off-the-wall situations occasionally. Parallels occasionally also with things that Waititi has done. The main one being one of the teenage protagonists, Bear, has a deadbeat dad who always lets him down. That's a little bit of a spoiler, I suppose. But a parallel there with the New Zealand film Boy, with James Rolleston as Boy and Taika Waititi as the deadbeat dad. But it's been good. There is a series 2 coming along. There's 8 episodes, and it is a slow burner. But by the time you get to episode 5, you're in there. It's so if you're going to watch it, stick with it. And the other thing I'm watching is on Maori television, and it's a documentary about the Chatham Islanders. East of New Zealand. There is a bit of New Zealand. It's 800 kilometres away or thereabouts. And this is a documentary on island life and what it's like to be way out there in the Pacific. Also with mention of the first people, the Moriori, Maori, Pakeha, like whalers and sealers who first came and laid waste to the place. But it's not just District 2, it's mostly about the people who live there now and their daily life. I'm 3 episodes in, and I think it's going to be 7, and I'm enjoying it. It's
cool.
A different... I'd never, didn't know much about the place, and now I do.
No, you see it on the weather forecast, don't you, the Chatham Islands? But I don't really know where it is or anything about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, interesting.
It's great.
Yeah, you're far more into the NZ culture than I am. I guess I don't really watch any of that stuff on TV. I'm still watching the BBC, But I guess I'll get there because there's some fascinating stuff going on around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. From my point of view, so I'll get a couple of updates from the last episode of this podcast. So we talked about Vigil, who done it on the submarine. So I got to the end of that, finished it. It was good, it was like any of these good British police dramas, it was. But it was on a submarine. Trigger alert: if you get claustrophobic, the whole thing is pretty claustrophobic. But when it gets to the end, there's a scene which is very, very claustrophobic. So. It was good. It was good, and I also finished, which wasn't claustrophobic at all, as I talked about last time, was Only Murders in the Building, which is on Disney Plus. I got to the end of that. That was fantastic. I would thoroughly recommend that. It's set up nicely for a second series, a bit of a twist at the end, but recommend that one. thumbs up. I also committed last time to watching Squid Games, just because I thought I should.
Yeah.
Struggling with that a wee bit. I got through episode 2. Everyone says keep going, so I will. But to be honest, I'd rather be watching Black Mirror. Don't know if any of you out there have ever watched Black Mirror.
Oh yeah.
But I'm getting kind of whiffs of Black Mirror with Squid Game. It's just that whole dystopian horror kind of thing. But I'll stick with it. I will stick with it, and we'll see how we go. Watched a film with a family the other night, which I've never watched. I read the book at the time when it came out, which was Life of Pi. I'm sure you read the book, Captain. Did you at the time? Yeah. And the book left me a little confused. The film left me a little confused as well. The film was brilliantly done. I mean, all the CGI, because it's from quite a few years ago now. It was about ages ago. The CGI is amazing. So yeah, it was good. It was a good watch, but still a little bit confused at the end as to what actually really happened. But it was good. It was good. Sorry, I'm going on a bit because a few things have caught my eye this week. Of course, the Let It Be Super Deluxe version. That's been in my ears non-stop. I mean, it just keeps on giving, doesn't it? You're never finished, are you, with the Beatles? You think you're finished?
If only they'd stop.
It doesn't finish.
No.
With Bowie or someone, you do all the Bowie albums and you love all the Bowie albums and it's all great, and then that's done. But the Beatles just keeps going. 50 years later, and you're hearing this new stuff, and you're hearing them writing these songs on the fly as they're recording them in these outtakes. Amazing stuff. I couldn't be more excited about this new Peter Jackson Get Back.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
3-part. I'm so excited about it. So only a couple of weeks to wait.
Is it just because the Beatles left the tape running longer than anybody else and kept more tape than anybody else? Everybody else just chucked it away or recorded over it, or I don't know. Yeah,
I read something or heard something the other day on a podcast. I think the engineers were told don't throw any tape away.
Yeah.
Don't throw anything away. Once they got to a certain point in their career, the cameras were on them the whole time, and the tape was rolling the entire time in Abbey Road. So the outtakes are incredible, the different versions of these songs, and about how George was struggling with writing the lyrics to Something.
I saw the clip.
Attracts me like a pomegranate. That was a lyric originally. Great stuff. So dead excited about that. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of weeks since we last spoke.
Yeah.
Which brings us on to the main theme, really.
It does.
Captain, I'll let you kick off.
Good Lord. What are we doing? Well, we're going to have a little chat about the 27 Club.
So what is the 27 Club?
Well, the 27 Club. A lot of artists, musical, painting artists, and other folks, famous folks from the world of culture, died at 27. And it became a thing, I think, when the biographer of Kurt Cobain, Charles R. Cross, who wrote a book called Heavier Than Heaven. I think I've got that somewhere. When Kurt died, he was 27. And he joined the ranks of this supposed club in the late 60s and the 70s. For example, Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Jim Morrison of the Doors all died when they were 27. Now, I don't think anybody particularly was talking about the 27 Club at the time until Mr. Cross stuck his oar in when Kurt Cobain died. And it became a thing. And people went out there to try and prove statistically that it was a thing. And it isn't really. Sad to say. People die every day at all sorts of ages. But one thing I will say is that the members of the supposed 27 Club are very, very famous indeed. And that may be why this thing exists in people's minds. So, who else have I not mentioned that is incredibly famous? Well, Amy Winehouse,
of course.
Amy Winehouse, of course, was 27. The blues singer Robert Johnson was 27. He died when he was 38 in 1938. And people certainly weren't talking about the 27 Club then. And there's since been one or two more slightly less famous people, let's say.
Well, there was, of course, and we don't even know if he's dead, actually. It was Richie Edwards from the Manic Street Preachers, who disappeared at that age, missing, presumed dead, never been seen since.
I think legally
95.
Legally he's dead. He has been declared dead, but nobody knows. Never found. They found his car. There are one or two other small leads about where he was on that particular day, but not found at all. So is he in the club? We don't know. He may still be out there somewhere.
Yeah, who knows?
Other ones, Pete DeFreitas, who was the drummer with Echo and the Bunnymen. Pete Ham of Badfinger, the Beatles connection there, because Badfinger were on Apple Records, and Paul McCartney gave them... come on, brain. Come and get it. Yeah, that's the song. A couple of other songs of Badfingers that people might know. Chris Bell of the great Lost rock band of the 70s, Big Star. He died at 27. However, but we're
not here to talk about that, are we? Because everyone's talked about that before. We're going to talk about slightly different...
Well, I was going to sort of say, if you look around that particular age... Let's just spread our wings a little bit and look at the late 20s and nay, the early 30s even. What were you doing at 27, Ty?
What was I doing at 27?
Yeah, what were you doing?
Funny you should ask. I've actually pulled out the chart, the UK singles chart on my 27th birthday, which revealing my age. This was in May 1996. As everyone knows, everything's been shit since 1996. It was the highlight of life, especially if you're in Britain. It's been shit since then, all downhill since 96. So looking at the charts. So I'm not going to read the whole chart, Alan Freeman style, but I will get a few highlights. So number one was Fast Love by George Michael. George Michael, one of those artists I never took any notice of at the time. I didn't really click, but since he's died, I've realised how really good he was, actually. And I read Andrew Ridgeley's autobiography recently, and he learned a lot about George. Then we had Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit, Gina G at number 2, and then Return of the Mac by Mark Morrison. So not great stuff. But if you go a bit further down the charts, I've got Tonight by the Smashing Pumpkins, Charmless Man by Blur, Design for Life, Manic Street Preachers.
There you go.
But a couple of little stories to tell here. So we have at number 5 was now Suggs from Madness did a cover version of the Simon and Garfunkel song Cecilia. I don't know if you remember it. Not a great cover version, but at this around about this time on Top of the Pops, they weren't using Radio 1 DJs to present it. They were getting random celebrities in to present it. All sorts of people were presenting Top of the Pops. I don't know if it was to try and boost ratings or whatever it was. But this particular week, well, not this week, but I think it must have been the following week because I've checked the charts. The presenter of Top of the Pops was Chris Eubank. And Cecilia by Suggs, which is number 5 this week, actually went down to number 6 the following week. So
I can see what's coming.
I'm tearing myself. I'm torn. Do I try and do the impression or not? But if there's a very famous moment, and it's on YouTube, I'll try and find a link for it and we'll put it in the show notes, of Chris Eubank reading down the top 10 and announcing that at number 6 it was Suggs with Cecilia. So I've decided not to do the impression.
And for those who don't know, Chris Eubank had a notable lisp.
Yes, he speaks a little bit like this.
Yes.
So a funny moment was a classic moment was Suggs with Cecilia at number 6, as said by Chris Eubank. Mm-hmm. And I've got another further on down the chart. I was reminded of a little anecdote. So we've got Ironic by Alanis Morissette. Now, you'll remember, some of you will remember, around about this time, there was a young comedian on the scene called Ed Byrne, who's still around, very good. Very good comedian. And he did this brilliant sketch about that song, Ironic, about how the song shouldn't be called Ironic, because all the things she talks about in the song aren't actually ironic. They're just unfortunate.
It's mildly unfortunate.
Yeah, and the song should have just been called Unfortunate. And the only thing ironic about that song was it's called Ironic, and she didn't know what ironic meant. But anyway, so fast forward a number of years, and I was in the car once with my oldest daughter, Sophie. Hello, Sophie, if you're listening. Who would have been about 17 at the time, something like that, 20, that sort of age. And she was just getting into... no, she's a bit younger. Maybe she was 15, something like that. And she was just getting into comedy on the telly. She really liked things like Have I Got News For You and stuff like that. And she was a big fan of Ed Byrne. He was one of her favourites. So we're driving along in the car, and this song, Ironic, comes on the radio, and she didn't really know it. She was... very, very small child when this song was out. So I tried to explain to her the Ed Byrne sketch. She thought it was funny. I told her the story. She thought it was really funny. And we're in the car. We're driving to Tesco's, and we stopped outside Tesco's. And we got in the car. We carry on talking about Ed Byrne and this ironic thing. And we turned the corner into the ready meals aisle, and who's standing there but Ed Byrne? So what are the chances? Tesco Bishop Stortford, and there was Ed Byrne standing right there. I know he lives quite close to Bishop Stortford, still does, I think. Sophie was she almost fell over. She couldn't quite believe it. Just a story that sprung to mind when I saw that song being in the charts. So that was the music that was around. Firestarter had just gone.
That sketch was the making of Ed Byrne, pretty much.
Oh, yeah, he still gets asked about it now. I've seen him being interviewed.
She was heartily sick of people asking about it, but secretly grateful.
Which is ironic.
Yeah.
But it was a great sketch. Again, we'll try and... I'm sure it's on YouTube. We'll try and find it.
It is.
And post the link somewhere. But that was the making of him, because he was just another jobbing comedian at that time. And that just went massive, didn't it? That was very, very funny.
Yeah.
So that was the music around that time.
After you told me what you were doing with the charts here, I briefly looked up what was number one when I was 27 in 1987. And it was Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley.
Brilliant. But
number 2 was Pump Up the Volume. So it was a pretty good chart, as I remember. I won't go too far down it, but...
we talked about
I'm
that
all right
period.
with Rick, he can sing.
He's the next Morrissey, I reckon, that boy.
He's been doing some Smiths covers on YouTube.
Exactly.
We can look at that. He's very good.
Yeah, that period of time, that sort of mid to late 80s, there was a lot of... On the back of the Stock Aitken Waterman thing, there was a lot of that sort of... which I think it deserves an episode in its own right. There was that, what they called it, blue-eyed soul, I suppose they called it. All these white guys doing this kind of soul music. And some of it was good, some of it was dreadful. Curiosity Killed the Cat and Wet, Wet, Wet. And
You Would Cry.
That stuff. And I even
Danny
heard...
Wilson.
Yep, that's it. No, that was a bit more sort of Scottish folky. I'm talking about the ones in the designer suits. Okay. Even Fergal Sharkey, former punk Fergal Sharkey was doing that stuff with the... with the Armani suits on. Anyway, that's for another episode.
Indeed.
So also around 27, work-wise, interestingly, I just started working at a certain company where you ended up working there about a year later, I think, and that's how we first met, I think. I just started there at that time. 27.
Yeah.
So,
So, I mean, 27, I was down on the south coast. I got my flat. No, I hadn't. No, I was living in a shared house at the time, working at a flight simulation company. And
Did that take off? Thank you very much.
That safely landed all the time. Yeah, and I guess your 20s, your late 20s, that's when, certainly true in my case, when I got drunk more often than I ever have in later life, for example. You're kind of pushing the envelope a bit. You're earning enough to do things. You're almost mature enough to know what you're doing, but not quite. And this may be the kind of general point about the 27 Club or thereabouts. You're actually pretty much living your best life around those years. That's not to say you can't have fun in later life, but if you're not young, free and single, you're young, free and attached, and you can do what you want. Is that a thing? I don't know. Could be. Certainly with the fame and the power and the money, you can make a terrible mess of yourself for those years. And that may be why there is a 27 Club. If you look around that age, people who died at 26, Otis Redding, Graham Parsons and Nick Drake. 28, Tim Buckley. The Big Bopper was J.P. Richardson, who died in the plane crash with Buddy Holly and Richie Valens, although they were much younger than him. People who died at 29, Hank Williams and Mark Bolan. And people who died at 30, Jeff Buckley, Tim Buckley's son. Yeah. So
that was another mysterious death, didn't Jeff Buckley just walk into a river and?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one really knows why. I don't think anyone really particularly knows why Jim Morrison died. They have fake ideas, I think, but there's not autopsies and that kind of thing to work out exactly why. Not that we're going to worry about that particularly, but yeah. But it's I'd lay a fair bit of blame at Mr. Cross's biography. Kurt Cobain's mum said he's joined that stupid club when she heard about his death, and she probably didn't mean the 27 Club. She probably just meant people who committed suicide, but twisted after that to say that she did mean the 27 Club by some people. Yeah.
And we've got a little section here of people that didn't die at 27. I know most people didn't die at 27.
No.
Because I think at around about that time, whenever it was, about 10 years ago, I think, the 27 Club was very close, was very fresh in our mind with Amy Winehouse having recently gone. I think we were all watching Pete Doherty very closely, weren't we, around about that time?
Yep.
And we were all cheered on his 28th birthday.
Yeah.
He's all right now, I think, Pete. He looks quite happy now.
Well, I remember a social media photo of him a couple of years back with possibly the biggest breakfast I've seen anyone ever eat.
It's in Margate. Haven't they got a place down in Margate or something? A hotel or something?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But you could... his arteries are probably fairly hard already, so I would steer clear of the black pudding, Pete, if you're listening.
The thing I like about Pete Doherty, he looks skinny and fat at the same time. Not many people can pull that one off.
It's not quite elegantly wasted, but yeah.
A few others, obviously, that made it through.
The people who didn't die. Well, Iggy Pop, for one. I mean, Iggy's rolls on, as does Keith Richards, as does Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, if there's an apocalypse, there's going to be cockroaches, Iggy, Keith and Ozzy, and they'll be the ones left. They'll be ruling the world. I'm sure they've been close a few times, but the Grim Reaper wasn't around at the time.
No, that's right. They got away with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, interesting. Going back to the charts thing, maybe, dear listeners, if you want to send us send us the chart from your 27th birthday, and we'll have a look at them and choose our best. Officialcharts.com. You go to officialcharts.com and you can put the date in there. We're not fishing to get your identity theft, to get your dates of birth.
No, you don't have to tell us when your birthday exactly was.
No, it will give you the chart for that week. But if you want to give us your credit card number as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So, any more to say about the 27 Club or any of that stuff, Captain?
I don't know. If we missed someone out, I will mention Jean-Michel Basquiat. The artist who generally is included. It's not just musicians. If anybody knows anyone and mentions anyone on social media that we missed out, if you feel outraged that they should have got a mention, then let us know.
Yeah, there is a list on Wikipedia. Search
there is
27 Club on Wikipedia, and there is a big list there of a lot of people I've never heard of. A lot of rappers that got shot.
Yeah, I'm going to put together a Spotify playlist of 20-something club members. So watch out for the link to that in the show notes when we publish those on the website. Thanks to Barry, our old workmate, for the 27 Club suggestion.
Okay, well, I think we've talked enough, have we?
Well, it could be pretty good. You've got something more for us, though, haven't you?
What?
Yeah.
A joke, you mean?
The joke.
The joke. In a new regular part of the show, the joke. So a mate of mine has recommended a great new way to serve strawberries. Slice them up, sprinkle them in sugar, and pile cream on top. I've got to say, pile cream is absolutely disgusting, even with strawberries and sugar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So stay in touch, everyone. Thank you for listening. At Only a Podcast or onlyapodcast.com, or you know where we are because you found us.
Yeah.
Any more to say?
Not from me. So
me neither.
say goodbye, Terry.
Goodbye, Terry. And see you on the other side, folks. Bye now.
See you, folks. Martin Wa.
Kia ora.
You've been listening to Only a Podcast. If you'd like to get in touch and share your feedback and ideas, we'd love to hear from you. Go to onlyapodcast.com, or you can find us at Only a Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, or via our Facebook page. Remember, it's only a podcast.